The night was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that sits heavy in your chest, making you notice every small sound. The ticking of the clock on the wall, the faint hum of the refrigerator, even the whisper of her breathing as she sat across from me. We were in her kitchen, the dim light above the counter casting shadows that made her look softer, more vulnerable than she'd ever admit to being. Her name was Claire. She was in her mid-40s, with laugh lines that told stories of years I hadn't been there for, and eyes that always seemed to carry both wisdom and weariness. And yet, she had this energy, this presence, that pulled me in from the very first time we met. I was in my late 20s, still figuring out where my life was heading, while she seemed like she already knew the answers to questions I hadn't learned to ask. That night, I couldn't stop watching the way her fingers traced the rim of her wine glass, absent, distracted. Every time she looked up, I felt something tighten inside me. Attraction wasn't new. We'd danced around it for months. But there was more. Something deeper. Something dangerous. "You're quiet tonight," she said finally, her voice low, careful. I shrugged, trying to hide the storm I felt brewing inside. "Just thinking. About." She tilted her head, studying me like she always did, like I was both a puzzle and a risk. I wanted to tell her everything. That I was thinking about the way her laugh made me feel alive. About how every time she leaned just a little closer, I caught myself imagining what it would be like if I never had to leave her side. But the word stuck. What came out instead was safer. About us. That single phrase changed the air between us. She froze, then leaned back in her chair, creating space where a moment ago there was closeness. Her lips pressed together, as if she was weighing what to say. "There is no us," she whispered after a beat too long. But I saw it. The flicker in her eyes, the hesitation in her voice. She was lying. Maybe to me, maybe to herself. I reached across the table, brushing the back of her hand with mine. She didn't pull away. "Claire," I said softly, "you don't have to keep pretending. Not with me." Her eyes glistened. "You don't understand. You're young. You have time to build your life. I've already lived half of mine. I shouldn't. I can't." Her words trailed off, and for a heartbeat, we were both suspended in the space between what we wanted and what we thought was right. I wanted to erase every fear she carried, every reason she believed love had an expiration date. I leaned closer. "You make me feel like I'm finally where I belong. Isn't that enough?" Her breath caught, and for a moment, I thought she'd let go of the walls she held so tightly around herself. But then, something in her hardened. She straightened, her tone sharper now, though her hands trembled. "You don't even know what a real man is," she said, her voice breaking in places she couldn't hide. "A real man doesn't chase fantasies. A real man doesn't fall for someone like me." The words stung deeper than I could admit. My chest tightened, my hands curled into fists in my lap. I wanted to shout, to argue, to make her see that she was wrong. But all I managed was silence. For the first time since I'd known her, I looked at Claire and wondered if love alone could ever be enough. And then, just as I opened my mouth to speak, the sharp ring of her doorbell echoed through the quiet house, shattering everything between us. The doorbell echoed again, sharper this time, and Claire shot me a look that was part panic, part warning. I could see her mind racing. Who could it be at this hour? Her shoulders stiffened, and she pulled her hand away from mine as if burned. "Stay here," she whispered. But I couldn't. My pulse hammered too loud, my body already halfway out of the chair. The air felt thick with all the words left unsaid, with the way her voice had cracked when she said "real man." She moved to the door, each step hesitant. I stood frozen, watching her silhouette as she reached for the handle. The door opened with a soft creak, and my stomach sank when I heard the voice on the other side. "Claire, you didn't answer your phone." It was Daniel, her husband. I'd seen him before, tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who filled a room with presence. Older than me, but confident in ways I'd never been. The contrast between us was stark, and maybe that's what she meant when she said "real man." Claire's voice wavered as she spoke. "Daniel, I thought you were away until Monday. I caught an earlier flight." His footsteps carried into the house before she could stop him. Panic surged in my chest. I was still standing in the kitchen doorway, the wine glasses on the counter betraying the intimacy of the evening. Daniel's eyes swept across the room and landed on me. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. "What's going on here?" His tone wasn't loud, but it was heavy. Claire opened her mouth, then closed it again. I stepped forward before she could crumble under his gaze. I was just leaving, I said quickly, though every part of me screamed to stay. Daniel's jaw tightened. Who are you? A friend. The lie tasted bitter, but I forced it out. He studied me, suspicion flickering in his eyes. Claire stepped between us then, her hand resting lightly on his arm. He's right. Just a friend. Nothing more. The words pierced deeper than I expected. Just a friend. After everything we'd almost admitted, after the way her hand had trembled beneath mine. I told myself she only said it to protect us, but the sting remained. Daniel exhaled, rubbing his temples. Claire, we'll talk later. I'm exhausted. He glanced at me one last time, then disappeared down the hall toward the bedroom. The moment he was gone, Claire turned back, her face pale, eyes filled with a storm of emotions. You need to go, she whispered. I should have. Every rational thought screamed at me to walk out, to put distance between us. But I couldn't move. Claire, tell me you don't feel it. Tell me this is nothing, and I'll walk away for good. My voice cracked raw. She shook her head, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. You don't understand. I've built a life with him. He's been my everything for years. If he ever found out, her voice trailed off, breaking. I stepped closer, lowering my voice to a whisper. And what about me? What am I to you? For a moment, she didn't breathe. Her lips parted as if to answer, but no sound came. Then, suddenly, her hand brushed against mine again, desperate, fleeting. The electricity of that touch made every nerve in my body ignite. We stood so close I could see the tremble in her lower lip, the way her chest rose and fell in uneven rhythm. I leaned in, just enough for my breath to mix with hers. Her eyes fluttered shut, one more inch and I'd taste her. But she pulled back, shaking her head violently. No, we can't. Not here. Not like this. The space between us widened, cold rushing in where warmth had been. You think walking away will make this disappear? I whispered. Because it won't. I feel you everywhere, Claire. Even when you're not here. Her tears finally spilled. Don't say that. Please. You'll ruin everything. But her voice betrayed her. It wasn't anger, it was longing. A sudden vibration cut through the air. Her phone buzzed on the counter, lighting up with a new message. Claire's eyes darted to it, widening in shock. She snatched it up quickly, but not before I saw Daniel's name glowing on the screen. He had texted her from the bedroom. Who was he really? Claire's hand shook as she turned the phone face down, her breathing ragged. He doesn't trust me. He never has. I swallowed hard, guilt mixing with the ache in my chest. Do you? I asked softly. Her gaze snapped to mine. Do I what? Trust me. The silence stretched unbearably, filled only by the ticking clock. Finally, she whispered, more than I should. The weight of her confession nearly broke me. My body screamed to pull her into my arms, to promise her that I'd fight every battle for her. But the sound of Daniel moving down the hallway made reality crash back. Claire grabbed my wrist, her grip desperate. You have to go? Now. Please. Her touch was fire, her eyes pleading. Every fiber of me wanted to stay, but I forced myself toward the back door. As I reached it, I turned back one last time. She stood there, framed by the dim kitchen light, tears streaming, lips trembling with words she wouldn't say. And though distance grew between us, the pull only deepened. I stepped outside, the cool night air cutting against the heat in my chest. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was the ache of her absence, and the haunting certainty that this wasn't the end. Because no matter how much she tried to deny it, no matter how high the walls she built, what we had was already too strong to walk away from. And sooner or later, those walls would crack. I hadn't planned on coming back. I told myself walking away was the only way to protect us both. But 2 nights later, I found myself parked outside her house, hands clenched on the steering wheel, my heart pounding harder than it should have. The glow of the living room lamp spilled faintly through her curtains. I saw a movement, a shadow pacing back and forth. She was awake, restless, just like me. Before I could second-guess myself, I was at her door. I rang the bell once. The moment she opened it, her breath hitched, eyes wide like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. Neither should you. I shot back, though I wasn't even sure what I meant. All I knew was the ache in my chest when I saw her again. She stepped aside reluctantly, and I entered. The air between us felt charged, like a storm about to break. She crossed her arms, as if that could shield her from me. Daniel's out, she said flatly. You should leave before he's back. Is that what you want? I asked, searching her face. Her lips pressed together, but her silence told me more than words. I took a step closer. I can't keep pretending, Claire. I can't sit in silence while you look at me like that, and then tell me I don't matter. Her voice cracked, low and trembling. You do matter. That's the problem. The dam inside me broke. Then say it. Say you feel what I feel. Stop hiding behind him, behind your fears. Just say it. Her hands shook as she pressed them to her face. When she lowered them, her eyes shone with tears. You think this is easy for me? You think I don't lie awake at night wishing things were different? You're young, free. You could have anyone. Why ruin yourself for me? Because it's you, I said fiercely. It's always been you. The silence after was unbearable, the kind that claws at your ribs, makes your chest ache. Then, in the quietest voice I'd ever heard from her, she whispered, if I admit it, I'll lose everything. I stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her. Maybe what you're losing is already gone. Maybe what's left is standing right in front of you. Her eyes locked on mine, raw and unguarded. The walls she'd fought to keep up began to crumble, brick by trembling brick. You don't know what you're asking, she whispered, her breath shaky. I'm asking for the truth, I said, my voice barely holding steady. The space between us was shrinking, unbearable, dangerous. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. And then she moved. Just slightly. Just enough. The distance between us was down to a breath. I could feel her trembling, see the battle in her eyes, fear, guilt, desire all crashing together. My hand hovered near hers, my heart beating so loud I thought she could hear it. And just as our faces inched closer, as the world began to tilt, the sound of keys turning in the front door froze us both. The sound of keys in the front door snapped her backward, like a puppet cut from its strings. She shoved me toward the hallway, her breath frantic. Go. Now. But before I could move, the door swung open. Daniel stepped in, his suitcase thudding against the hardwood. His eyes swept the room in an instant, first at Claire's flushed face, then at me standing far too close. His jaw clenched. I knew it. Claire froze, pale as paper. Daniel, it's not. Don't lie. He cut her off, his voice low but laced with fury. He tossed his keys onto the counter, the clatter sharp in the silence. I saw the way you looked at him weeks ago. Thought I was imagining it. Thought you wouldn't dare. My chest tightened. He knew. He'd been watching, waiting. Daniel, nothing happened, Claire said, though her voice trembled with cracks of truth. But then came the twist I didn't expect. Daniel's eyes locked on me, cold and steady. She told me herself. She said you weren't a real man, that you'd never measure up. The words hit like a blade. My breath caught, sharp and painful. I turned to Claire, searching her face, desperate for denial. Her lips parted, but nothing came. Silence. And that silence told me everything. She had said it. Maybe in anger, maybe in fear, but she had. My stomach twisted, the ache mixing with betrayal. So it's true, I whispered. Her tears spilled instantly. I didn't mean it like that. You said it. I cut her off, my voice breaking despite myself. The one thing you knew would cut deepest. And you told him. Daniel stepped forward, arms crossed. You want the truth, kid? She's been restless for months. I knew someone would come along eventually. I just didn't think it'd be you. Claire gasped, spinning on him. Stop it, Daniel. Don't you dare twist this. But my world was already tilting, the weight of her confession suffocating. I defended you, I said hoarsely. Every time you pushed me away, every time you said we couldn't, I thought it was fear. I thought it was because you were protecting us. But you didn't believe in me at all, did you? Her hand shot toward mine, desperate. No, that's not true. I said it in anger. I was trying to push you away. Because I was scared of this, of us. But I've never doubted you. The sincerity in her eyes warred with the sting in my chest. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But the damage was done. Daniel's bitter laugh cut through the room. Look at you. Both of you tearing yourselves apart for something that'll never last. For the first time, Claire turned on him with fire in her eyes. Don't you dare decide that for me. Her words hung heavy, a revelation in themselves. She wasn't just defending me. She was challenging him. The ground had shifted, and nothing between us would ever be the same. The room was a battlefield of silence, only broken by the ragged sound of our breathing. Daniel stood like a wall between us, his arms crossed, eyes sharp, daring her to choose. Claire's hand was still in mine, trembling, fragile, but real. For the first time since this began, she didn't let go. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered, her voice shaking but steadying with each word. "I've spent years pretending I was fine, pretending love was supposed to feel like compromise. But the truth is," she turned her eyes to me, raw and glistening, "he makes me feel alive in ways I thought I'd lost for. I never wanted you to see how ugly it could be." I cupped her face, my thumbs brushing away the tears she couldn't stop. "I didn't come here for perfect, Claire. I came here for you." Her breath shuddered as she leaned into my touch, her eyes closing like she was finally surrendering to something bigger than fear. For a moment, the rest of the world didn't matter. It was just us, the two of us, holding on to something fragile but burning. "You deserve more than this mess," she whispered against my palm. "Maybe," I said softly, "but I don't want more. I just want you." Her lips parted, her forehead pressed against mine. The space between us dissolved until there was nothing left but warmth, trembling, and the truth neither of us could run from anymore. When her mouth finally touched mine, it wasn't the kind of kiss that promised forever. It was the kind that said, "We're here, we're broken, and we're still choosing each other anyway." It was messy, desperate, soaked in everything we'd lost and everything we were still daring to hope for. And when we finally pulled apart, breathless, I saw it in her eyes. Fear still lived there, but love had finally claimed its place beside it. We didn't know what tomorrow would look like. Maybe we'd crash, maybe we'd burn. But in that moment, we weren't running anymore. The house was quiet now, but not empty. It was full of the echoes of what had happened, the shattered tension, the truths spilled, the choices made. Claire and I sat side by side on the couch, her head resting lightly on my shoulder. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, it felt like we had permission to just exist together, without the constant weight of fear pressing down. We didn't need to talk. Words would have been clumsy, insufficient. Our hands were intertwined, fingers locking in a promise that neither of us could fully define yet, but both of us understood. There was guilt lingering, yes, for the walls broken, for the lives disrupted. But there was also a strange, almost frightening freedom in finally letting the truth surface. "Do you ever think about what happens next?" she asked softly, her voice almost a whisper, but it cut through the calm. "All the time," I admitted, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "But right now, I don't want to think about the future. I just want to be here, with you." She smiled, fragile but real. "Even if it's messy?" "Especially if it's messy." I laughed quietly, the sound a mix of relief and disbelief. It's not perfect, but nothing worth having ever is. For a while, we simply sat there, letting the quiet wrap around us. Every tick of the clock, every shadow stretching across the room, felt sacred. It wasn't about certainty anymore. It was about presence, about choosing each other one more time, even when everything was uncertain. The storm outside had cleared, leaving a sky full of stars barely visible through the curtains. I thought about the twists that had brought us here, the words that cut, the lies that almost shattered us, the fear that nearly pulled us apart. And yet, somehow, love had found a way to survive. Not easy, not clean, but alive. She lifted her head to look at me, eyes shining. "Do you ever wonder if we'll make it? Or if we're doomed to fight our fears forever?" I took a deep breath. "I don't know. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I do know this. I wouldn't trade this for any certainty in the world." Her hand found mine again, squeezing gently. "Then I guess we just keep choosing each other. One day at a time." I nodded. One day at a time. Outside, life moved on. Neighbors, cars, the distant hum of the city. But inside, time had slowed, if only for a moment, giving us a chance to feel something simple and human. Love, in all its messy, complicated glory. And as we sat there, hearts beating in the same rhythm, I couldn't help but wonder, how far would we go for the people we love? Could we forgive the mistakes that almost broke us? And, most importantly, what does it really take to be a real man or a real woman when love doesn't come with guarantees? Those questions hung in the air, unanswered, leaving a lingering warmth and a spark of hope that whatever came next, we would face it together. 6.